We actually have Crystal Beast for you today. We have, Pendulum good stuff, and it appears a Bujin deck has been cited too. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Wow, it has been a little while since I have seen some Crystal Beast shenanigans. But what's this? We're playing Featherstorm in our deck, so all you need is a Windwing Beast for this. Another scenario of us having a built-in searchable Wing Beast monster that we just have to toggle for this off of the thrust. And I guess anytime that you can see a combo deck like this incorporate something like this, there was a time where you saw Sword Soul trying this too, because they're like, oh, the level 8 Harpy Synchro is entirely generic, so all you gotta do is just actually get to the Featherstorm, and you get like a free turn blink on your opponent. It's kind of what you're doing here, actually. As long as we can thrust into this, and then we can do, your standard Crystal Beast board. We're only doing 2 Golden Rule, which I guess some people are going to find that a little bit weird. I do think the Golden Rule is one of the strongest cards that you can honestly be looking at for this deck. But, it is a once per turn, so, maybe cutting back on that is fine. I also see we're actually playing Rainbow Ruins in here. It's not every day you actually see Rainbow Ruins showing back up. Actually, I think most of these builds, kind of hate this card now, but we're playing 2 of those. Obviously, the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. You've had other builds that are doing, other field spells like, being able to soft lock your opponent with Secret Village, all the little fun things that you're used to seeing out here with these sorts of decks. And hi, see, we're citing Dunko Rekka down here as well. Post-side decking, I see we have Change of Heart, the talents and additional thrust. All of the standard cards that you're kind of used to seeing here show up to try to balance out the evil that is in that. But outside of that, I think this is really cool, actually. Being able to use the original Crystal Beast in a semi-competitive sense, no advanced Crystal Beast, is actually pretty cool to see. So good job. Next up here. 60 card Magispector, Pendulum, Magician, Ignister, Dino Power, the deck. And of course, it just isn't a party unless you have the super heavy scales in your deck. Yeah, we're pretty used to seeing how good these little 2 guys can be, because they are by far, I think, the best universal pendulum scales that we kind of have working for us in the game right now. Now, this build, your spell lineup is, 6 cards with 1 trap card back here, being the Tempest, and the reason why you're playing the Tempest is it is a counter trap card that you can effectively beam on out here and have work for you, so that's actually pretty important. I do see we are playing the Secret Village. Oh yes, the field spell that tells our opponent, no, not allowed to have fun. And of course, you are actually playing the triple Pendulum Graph. Don't underestimate how good this card can actually be in certain scenarios. We've definitely learned that having your scales, especially in the current era, where, your scales can't be, literally popped, it's actually kind of useful to actually have this. Then sometimes it can totally screw you up, but it's neither here nor there. Post-side decking. I see we do have the White Wing and the Black Wing down here as options. I see we also have the Mind Controls and additional Tactile. Oh my gosh. You're bringing in so many control options for your opponent. I also see that, for the combo lines for this, you are doing Singularity, and you're actually going as far as actually having Trigate Wizard built into the deck. Don't underestimate, how stupid Trigate can actually get for you. We've learned that Spiral can do crazy things with this. I think that this is another one of those scenarios that you look at and you're like, this deck can still kind of do some things. And that's the honest truth. But Pendulum good stuff, it's still in existence. It takes a little bit more time for people to kind of figure out what they want to do with this. Next up here. Wow. This is the most basic Sword Soul deck that I think I've seen in quite some time. I do think so, honestly. Well, once again, this proves that, old reliable can still get you places. You don't have to sit out here and, think of all of these different crazy little combo variations. Honestly, the old and the usable are still, relevant. Still playing the Triple Ash, Triple Imperm. That's your hand trap lineup. And then, of course, you're doing basically full 10E stuff. You are doing the one Synthana still to have the level 4 to beam out, so you can kind of do your thing. I also see that this build did go to the Triple Desires. I think there's been a little bit of an argument in these builds to go either the 2 or the 3 route. I don't have an issue with either or. I think that this does work out either way. And of course, we're only doing 2 Heavenly Dragons. Like, we're not doing any of the other crazier options you have. I guess the other crazy thing here is, you know, we actually have double blackout in the main, and, you know, that might be considered taboo by some players. You might be like, well, you know, we've played one for so long. Honestly, try it out. You never know when you start messing around with these ratios what's going to work out. I do see down here that we are playing the Psychic End Punisher. This is something that we've kind of noticed move in a little bit more with some of these builds. Psychic End Punisher's entire job is to be a menace, and the card does it fantastically. Also, people in the year 2024 still don't have an out to this card. I quite learned that the hard way. It's basically a pseudo-boss monster that just kind of shows up, your opponent looks at and goes, huh, how am I supposed to deal with that? Even though there are plenty of outs to it. Also, post-side decking, I mean, holy hand trap. You also bring in, I mean, the Feather Duster, these, and then, of course, the Evenlies to kind of give you that gap to give you the chance to go second. But outside of that, I mean, pretty standard stuff. I also like the Doomsday Star inclusion in here. Actually, pretty good to see. Next up here, Bujins. All right, so first thing I'm going to tell you is it's kind of nice to see that people are still kind of messing around out here with some of the concepts of Bujins. You know, ever since, well, I guess the, you know, getting to an end phase to trigger Yamato is kind of unheard of now, because the game is so much faster than it previously was. I mean, this deck was like the Kaiser Coliseum Fiend back in the day, where you basically were forced to slow roll the game to the point that, you know, you could capitalize on things and try to be able to maintain the flow of the game through, you know, slow gridlocking your opponent and floodgates. And, well, we don't have that anymore in the TCG for this. That's why Bujins have been kind of lost to the chasm of time. Now, some interesting things. I do see we are playing Small World in here, so this does technically toggle for anything. We do have the Bujin Carnation. Of course, you're maximizing on your searchers. And I do see that we are playing a Photon Sanctuary in here. And this is actually fine because, I mean, everybody light anyway. Like, you're not going to have unless you're trying to normal summon Ash, but I mean, who cares? Like, the whole thing is this gets you 2 tokens on the field, so you can actually make Ashima pretty freely. And I kind of like this. I never really considered using Photon Sanctuary as like a stepping stone for Ashima, but Ashima is a very strong card in this deck, and I mean, outside of that, I mean, you're just still going to go Susanoo, you know, poke across the board. And of course, I do see we have some other interesting options, like Utopic Future Draco, and of course, the Gaga Magician to kind of help you out with those extension plays, so you can make sure you can get these monsters on the field, so you can start to, well, clear the game. Outside of that, though, I mean, pretty straightforward for Bujins, right? You just kind of got to adjust your ratios, find out where you want to be, especially when you're playing a deck like this. And our last deck here, some actual trap tricks. The first thing I want to tell you is trap tricks straight out of the box, if you're intending to play on a local level, is not the worst idea. The biggest things you still got to worry about are going to be fire, and whatever, you know, shapes up out of the next format. Especially if you can still kind of get this stuff relatively cheap. Actually going with the triple parallel Exceed versus the 2, I do like this a lot. We have seen some other ratios. People are trying out 2 of this. I think you're pushing the 3 just to ensure that you can actually see it. And don't underestimate, you know, the power of consistency. We've learned one way or another, especially when you're playing a deck like this, that having those consistent numbers to be able to get to things is very important. Speaking of interesting, only 2 evenly built into the main, and we're not even citing the additional. And I also want to give a shout out here to Bottomless Trap Hole. We have seen how stupid Bottomless Trap Hole can actually be as a card, and the fact that, you know, you can actually turbo to actually see this card and basically mess up your opponent's key play, it amazes me. Actually, out here in 2024, this card still being a little bit of a menace, all right, but that just once ahead, you know, banishing an asset or a resource away from your opponent so that they can't access it is very, very, very strong. So that's all that we have for you today in the interesting department for decks. I'm definitely curious to see whether ideas will kind of pop out here, and I do think that there's a lot of room for development still, but we will have to wait and see as we're still waiting for our ban list. Please comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back in the day, guys. Patrons! Thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.